I know teachers right now are into their 40s who are still paying college loans off.
The people that aren't in education complain about what we're not doing in education. You're like, all right, so the people that are doing cool stuff, you almost have borderline a moral obligation to say, all right, this is what I'm doing then.
Let me ask you a very quick question. Is it easier to get a passport than it is to substitute teach?
Yep. Like, be lazy. Well, if I'm training people to be teachers, be lazy. Yeah, shut up and let them do it.
There's two emotions that I straddle, right? Is hope and worry. So I'm worried to death about kids, but I'm super hopeful about the future.
Education wants the instant gratification. They want the weeds. They don't want the trees.
CTE is coming gangbusters for the traditional, practitioners who don't want to even entertain moving things around for the sake of efficacy.
Do we need as much time as we need to do school?
I mean, if you're asking a 14-year-old, they're going to tell you a weekend will be fine. But no, I want to challenge kids.
If you're about to listen to this podcast, buckle up.
You're listening to the Disrupt Education Podcast. Here are your hosts, Peter Hostrauser and Ali Dahl.
Welcome to this episode of the Disrupt Education Podcast. I almost forgot the name of the podcast, Ali. What the heck? I mean, we've only been doing this for, 10 years. But how you doing, Ali? What's going on?
Oh, I'm a little fired up today. Well, I'm in a spicy mood. It's good though. It feels like a Monday, but it's a Wednesday. The day our episodes come out, and we're recording this. I guess my message for the people is, man, substitutes and teachers, like, they definitely don't get paid enough. Let's say that. But also, anything you can do to support your student, to support adults that are literally there to help you is invaluable, right? Like, I will just say that. It was just a very interesting day in a school building today. And I will say, being a guest teacher or a substitute teacher, you get to see the sides of kids that the actual teachers never see.
Yeah. We need to have a series on that. We'll do a series on that. But we are in the middle of our kind of throwback series. 7 years ago, episode number 30. This gentleman was on as a junior in college, I believe. So we have Liam Sundling back with us 7 years ago. How are you doing, Liam?
I'm doing good. I'm older. I don't know how much wiser. And I was going into
Were you in your junior year?
In my sophomore year.
You were in your sophomore year. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sophomore year, I believe. And things have been good.
Yeah.
It's been learning, the difference between college and, let's not even say the first couple years out of college, because that's still just like college plus. Whether
Fair
you're,
enough.
still with you're in the same town or same area that you went to college, you got a job, you're still seeing your friends, or, you move back home it's still college. It's college plus.
I like that.
But then you get past that, and you get, when it's like, 10, 11 o'clock bedtime is pretty nice. And you get into more of that, and it's like, it's fun. Life is fun. It really is. There's a lot of stuff to do. It throws completely curveballs at you, and you don't know which way it goes, but it's a fun ride.
Here we are, 7 years later from that. And I really like that. I like that idea that, college, and then there's kind of college plus. I totally get that as somebody who graduated college and really wasn't quite professional right after college myself. So, but let's let people know, like what are you doing now? What's your role right now? And then we'll kind of try to connect the bridge over the last 7 years.
Yes. So right now I work at G2. We are a geotechnical and geoenvironmental consulting company. pretty much like to say we're pros at everything under the ground. So we do a lot of work with either buying or selling of property or with early construction. So I like to like give an example. You're looking to buy a property in Cornfield, Illinois,
Hmm.
and you want to know what you're paying for. You hire us, we'll go and do a investigation. While it's a physical site walk, we'll go and walk to make sure there's no red flags, such as like pools of petroleum laying on the ground and gross, dirty stuff. And then we'll go do a deep dive into the history of the property, as along with databases of all the government, whether that's state, federal, local information to tell the full picture of what that property was, to give the purchaser a picture to know where their money is going for.
Got
And
it.
then on the construction side, we'll do a lot of work with or in construction with the geotechnical side, we'll do a lot of work with early construction with foundation building and material testing of concrete strengths and a bunch of technical terms that probably no one wants to hear.
7 years ago, you said you're going to be an environmental engineer, didn't he, Ellie? Isn't that what he said on that?
Definitely said that.
Yeah.
And
So
I am proud to say I am not anywhere close to that.
See, that to laymen, like we're like, I think
Exactly,
that
yeah.
sounds like an
So
environmental engineer, but
we work with fixing past environmental mistakes
got it.
versus trying to forward progress with environmental like implementations of laws or anything. So we're here cleaning up like a bunch of my work I also do is I do asbestos sampling and testing on building. So asbestos was banned in 1972, and here we are in
My birth
2000.
date. That's how old. 52 years ago.
And here we are in 2025, and we're still
Still have
sampling,
it.
still in many buildings, and it's a dirty little material that was once known as a wonder material.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you mentioned like PFOBs in your interview, which that's a pretty early time frame for PFOBs, that they're now much more common, like
Yeah.
well known. The movie Dark Waters. I just bring it up because I taught at Bard College, and the curriculum was based off of what's in the water, and PFOBs being this forever chemical that people at 10 years ago, you mentioned it like in around
Hmm.
the time of 2015, and I'm thinking, oh wow, that like I was teaching it in 2022, 2023, 2024. It was just like like I have the science background, and so I was like, oh, that's really interesting in the environment and everything that you're talking about. But construction sites and asbestos and all this stuff, like those chemicals or those substances, right? Like they stay for a really long time, right? Your point of like 1972 and we're still uncovering it. I'm sure we'll uncover it for another
Mhm.
52 years. Buildings, they don't turn over necessarily at a rate. So I'm curious, so like, right, you on your episode 7 years ago, you were like, I knew exactly what I wanted to do out of high school, right? Like I wanted to go to the University of New Hampshire. I wanted to be an environmental engineer. And like, I love the conviction. You were just like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm really good at it. I knew my path. And it like, one thing I always love to tell students is it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to like adjust, pivot, all this stuff. And I'm wondering, like, did that happen? Obviously, it happened sometime in the last 7 years, but like, was it in junior and senior year of college? Was it in college plus? Was it recently? Like, how did that kind of happen to get you where you are now? I mean, it still seems related. Like you're still dealing with the environment, you're still
Mhm.
dealing with stuff, but it's not exactly what you said 7 years ago, which I wouldn't hold anyone to. But we can just pull it up because of the podcast. So
Yeah. No, it's that's interesting. So, well, gonna correct you on one thing. I actually didn't always knew I wanted to go to the University of New Hampshire. In my graduating OPRF pamphlet, they actually said I am going to the University of Vermont because that was my number one choice. But University of Vermont is 50,000 out of state, and no way,
Yeah.
no way.
Yep.
But I couldn't imagine going anywhere else. University of New Hampshire was amazing. I was the first person that graduated from OPRF that went to University of New Hampshire for more than one semester.
Hmm.
So that was fun. And so I loved it. And to answer your question, it started to go into that junior senior year when I realized I wasn't in love with environmental engineering. I actually I had a passion for sustainability, which is you would think would be very similar, but in my 4 years of college, I had one sustainability class and the professor wasn't there for half the time because he was going through a divorce.
Oh.
So, but when you're 2.5 years into an engineering degree, you kind of just got to do it. And so in and so that followed as soon as I graduated college. My first job out of college, I was a sales engineer, which engineering had nothing to do with it. I was just a salesperson that could speak technical terms.
Hmm.
I was selling electrical connectors, USBs, HDMIs to people in Silicon Valley. And I know a lot of people have had sales jobs, but a sales job where you're selling to people that are strictly 10 times smarter than you will ever be, because there are all these tech startups and just like, it was very, and I didn't know how to sell. I was an engineering kid. So it didn't work out. COVID happened, which was a blessing in disguise. And as I going back to College Plus, I think when you leave College Plus is when you get fired for the first time. That's when you leave College Plus.
There we go. Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, this world is not nice, and it isn't. And so I was living in California with that job. I moved back home here in Chicago Park, and then I got a job with ECS, which is a environmental consulting company, and I loved it. I really did. It was great because I wasn't stuck in an office. I was out on sites. And even if it was, I would drive 2 hours to spend 25, 30 minutes on site. It felt like I was doing more than just sitting behind a computer pretending to work and look busy. So and it that really was the spot that had me grow. Like I was learning significant, even though they're both they had environmental consulting and environmental engineering had very little to do with each other. So I was learning completely new information. My company was supporting me on getting new licensures and different certifications, which was great. And I really did like it, except for the travel. While I did say the 2 hours wasn't bad, where that company was located, it's a Eastern Coast company that goes out to Chicago. So Chicago was handling the Chicago area and then everything west. So I was going to, and sorry to the viewers in North Dakota, I don't mean to offend you, but I went to North Dakota 4 times in a year and don't really want to ever do that. And so I was getting jaded of travel at like 24, 25, and I was always a lover of traveling. I've been to 17 different countries and all but 12 states, and knocking 2 more countries out this summer. So that was, and my roommates were seeing me come back and I was just tired, exhausted. So I wanted something a little closer to home, get a job with G2 where I'm at currently, but caveat, I was not hired to do what I was doing at ECS. I walked into the interview applying to do a field technician role, and they realized I could talk to a brick wall, and they realized they needed help in developing business, so they hired me as their business development. And that was great, except for I had no idea what I was doing.
It's out there now.
Um, yeah, I mean, they knew. I mean, they knew I had no. They hired me with the knowledge that I had no interest, or no, not I had interest, no experience with it before. But they believed in me, and I believed in myself. And what I learned is whether you fancy it up with a big name like business development, it's all sales. And sales, kudos to the people that are good at it. I'm not one of those. I don't have that real cutthroat drive. I was filling my job, but I wasn't going above and beyond, which from the contacts that I've made and the people I've talked to, you need to. So if you want to go into sales, you're going to need to put the time into it. And then a couple months ago, while going through a bit of an environmental overhead haul with my company, I was brought with the opportunity to go back into the field. Opportunity. Not sure if it was like you should take this or you have to take this. But it was the right decision for me. I'm significantly happier in my role today with what I do. Last Friday, I was up in Wisconsin making sure I have my asbestos refresher, or I did my asbestos refresher course so I can get an updated license. And yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah. Going all the way back, like into the conversation, which we had 7 years ago, there was something interesting that, going through all of these, it seems like around Enviro, like you've been, and they're just different areas. And you kind of mentioned this and then you lived it, which I think is very interesting. So thank you for sharing that, because it kind of spurred a moment where in our conversation, it was the old, what would you do a little bit differently in high school at that time. And I want to see if you still kind of believe that or see it differently. Going back earlier into your high school to have more experiences while you're in high school, so you can kind of see maybe a wider scope of environmental science, whatever that encompasses. I don't know if you remember conversating about that, but we talked a little bit about like maybe like you're just done with your gen eds and you were finally starting to get into your hands dirty into stuff that you were more interested in. And I felt like rewatching it, it was like, yeah, I would have liked to have done that a little bit more before I walked into college. What are your thoughts on that?
So I don't disagree with that,
Hmm.
but more so a correct edit would be open to the things you don't like.
Mm.
Like in high school, I was math and science, and
Yep.
then with your class business, I love the business, and then with Mr. P as well.
Purpose, yeah.
Yes, purpose. But and so when I found the stuff I love doing it. So and the engineering, I forget
Yeah.
his name.
Project Lead the
Van
Way with
Horst.
Van Horst, yeah.
Then
Hmm.
yes, got it. Um,
Yeah.
so but I didn't, and whether that's this whole purpose of this podcast is it the education system, not hooking me into the histories, the Englishes, the languages, and the languages, that's just a talent that you kind of have to get. But like, and I mean, to this day, I still say I don't enjoy history, which is a stupid thing to say because history always repeats itself. But it's not an interesting topic other than outside of a few, whether that's ancient Greece, Rome, Egyptian. Um, but so I think if I had the mindset of not just focusing on the things that I love and trying to understand and unpack either why I don't like it, or why I don't like the things I don't like, or just saying like, hey, just give it time. Like just give it an honest try. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's fine. But I just watched a 12-minute video about the history of tipping in this world, and that was fascinating. It goes
Mhm.
back to 1960, and going forward to when the slaves were free, and the white business owners didn't want to pay them a wage, so they implemented this thing that they heard from England, tipping. And so
Hmm.
they didn't pay the black workers money, they just had them get tipped, and that was their wage.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
that's fascinating,
I didn't even know
especially
that. That is
ex
I didn't know
fascinating.
that
Yeah.
either.
exactly. And so there are ways that I know that I could have enjoyed learning about these topics. And I just, but so yeah, I while what I do agree with is that more in your personal life
Hmm.
is outside of whether it's your work or your school. It's couple years it was hard to go out and do things for me,
Yeah.
and not that I didn't want to, but just things would happen and I would force myself to be in. And then I didn't want that. I live in Chicago. I love this city. There's always something to do here.
Hmm.
um but there was things that were holding me back, and once I got past those things and I got to really go out and like not hinder myself in my place, it's that's where I think that like very broadening your horizons is amazing in the extracurriculars.
Got it. Yeah.
So for you, like, right, if you could go back and tell your 16-year-old, 17-year-old self, something about what you know now about life and college, and because you are on the podcast and you were already in college, but thinking back to even like your high school experience, and you did Project Lead the Way, and you were deep diving into math and science, and you just said like be more open to the things you don't like. Like, is there anything else that if you could go back and tell yourself, but also just like education in general, that would be helpful to where you are now? Because like you have the wisdom of being 7 years ahead. It's like I love asking this question. It's kind of like one of the purposes of the podcast is just think like, you're not that far outside of the formal education system. And so it's kind of like we want that peek into like, well, what would you say? What comes to mind, knowing the world that we're in right now?
Yeah, the biggest thing, it's really cool to apply yourself. Like
Mhm.
really, like in high school, I was B average student, and that was like, I had some pressures from parents, but not too much where it was like, stressing me out. But like, I could have definitely applied myself better. I could have definitely tried harder. I could have, it's not like the whole notion, and I don't know if it's with high school kids nowadays it's as much, but the whole notion of being a tryhard is just like you want to be a tryhard. You want to try your hardest in the things you want to do or you should be doing.
Mhm.
So I remember the specific quote that I had that I made in episode 30 was, I am not going to let a letter grade dictate my future.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And while that is true, I did not. I should have, uh, I should have really, thought more about, maybe a letter grade should dictate what not to the point, but just, senior year, barely
Mhm.
passed, but
Mhm.
I passed, I graduated, but like, and it's more so just, so it's apply yourself and time management. Those are the two things.
Yeah.
And I was horrible with time management.
Mhm.
I very much still am a procrastinator, and I'm one of those people that believes I do my best work when yeah, no, that's bullshit. Sorry,
Yeah.
not sure if I'm allowed to swear.
Sure.
But it really like manage. Oh, hi, buddy. This is Jasper.
There you go. See, we got our first cat of the year. That's hi, Casper.
But you really need to apply yourself, and you really need to be on top of your time. And it's hard because, especially in college is not vindictive to making you a good time manager. It is.
Mm.
High school is so much more like the real world than college.
Really?
Interesting.
Open that up. Unpack that.
When do you have a schedule in the real world when you can on Tuesday start at 11 a.m., Wednesday, maybe go from 9 to 2, Thursday you just don't work. And then, Friday, at least in high school, you are in the place you're supposed to be at for the prolonged amount of time. Like
Mhm.
you wake up, you're there by 8 a.m., where, work usually starts. Yeah, you get out a couple hours earlier than work, but you have a lunch. Like it is very, the structure of high school is
Mhm.
more like more like a job than the
Mhm.
structure of college.
Hmm.
I don't
Interesting.
disagree with that. It's interesting though, because like a lot of guests that we have, and I love that you don't
Yeah.
have like what I would call an opinion like some a lot of our guests have, which is
Mhm.
basically like let's get rid of the traditional schedule. But I do like the point you're not necessarily saying that. You're just saying that like high school and its structure and the time frame that you're doing it is better than the whimsicalness of college. Like I definitely remember my senior year of college. I I I just had marathon training on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 a.m. I didn't have any other classes because I stacked my
That was a
classes.
class?
It was a
Oh,
class. It was awesome class.
wait. You were actually like you were training for the marathon, or you were
Yes.
helping people train for
No,
marathon?
I was training for a marathon. Like we went and ran. Like it was a credit. Like I got credit to learn, and it was like all about learning how to train. But
Yeah.
that was my only class I had on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and all my other classes were stacked Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So
And that's what you would do. Like,
Yeah.
if I wasn't in an engineering degree, like, if no offense to the business majors, but you would have
the
Tuesdays and
lab.
Thursdays would be the only 2 days you would have class, and you would just, yeah. So I'm not, yeah, and I don't agree with the current work schedule. I
Mhm.
definitely am a part. I'm definitely a part of the 4 day a week work period,
Mhm.
but that's never going to happen here. But yeah, no, it's more high school is more set up like work than colleges, 100%.
Mhm. No,
Do you
that's
think like schools should be set up like work? I mean, I'm just posing like like I like that you're pointing this out, but I gotta ask the question.
Mhm.
Like should it
Uh,
be?
I
Or is
think
it ready for it?
high school, no. I mean, you're just so far away from actual work, other than like a part-time job. But like, I mean, high school should act more like college. High school should be structured more like college. And I know there are high schools that are the specialties, and they are more loose, and they are more about finding what, but or at least in college, just have like this is maybe don't give as much like leeway of like how you can schedule. Like maybe you have to say like maybe you have to have classes every day of the week, but the amount of classes can vary. I mean there's no solution to it. It's not really a problem. It's just we think in society that college is the idea of college is supposed to be getting you prepared to live and work in the real world.
Mhm.
The structure of it just instantly fails at that.
How about curriculum?
I wish my boss would let me, well, and to an extent, with COVID, the working from home kind of has done that a little bit. I am playing both sides of the field, but
Sure.
still.
Outside of structure though, let's like what about curriculum in college? Was that something that I mean, I know you bounced into different. It's very hard to think about now. Like after, I've been in different areas after college, after my bachelor's, all this stuff. But like, did you feel like the curriculum in college? I know the time frames. I get that. What were your thoughts on curriculum connecting it with professional you?
Well, so and that this is my own personal fault is that I've tried like out of my senior year I tried to get a job in an environmental engineering firm. I
Hmm.
just never did. It's more so it's looking back and the I've been out for 5 years. It's interesting to see how many of my friends don't work in the same job that they got their degree in. And I, I am still part of the advocate that college is helpful.
Sure.
It's
Hmm.
helpful in a sense of you get to learn significantly much. You have ample opportunity to learn whatever you're passionate about.
Hmm.
It gets you opportunities to get into companies, a lot of co-ops or internships. You can start a career before even getting into the full workforce.
Hmm.
Um, what's not great is that a lot of people spend a lot of money and are in debt for majority of their life to do something or to study something that they're never going to use in their life. Um, it's college is used for their network, and it's a great network, whether that's personal, whether that's professional, and it's a time to have fun. It really college is a very expensive fun network.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so in terms of, just where you're at now and, like the work, I love that you have like a non-linear path and, it's shifted and gone all these different places. That's life. That's so normal. And like people, in their 20s sometimes can think like it like the first like I love that you said, I feel like you get out of college plus the first time you get fired because you just realize like, oh wow, that can happen. Like it's just not, in school they can say it all they want, and no one believes it until right it like happens. But in terms of just thinking about like even like the education that you're getting in work now, right? And like where you are professionally, what do you think is a really big opportunity for education? Like just in general. Like what would be something that'd be really helpful if was in school based on all of your work experience that you're like, wow, if I had learned this skill or if I had done this thing or if this was part of the educational system, maybe it would help it and it wasn't part of my experience.
Hmm.
So mandatory co-ops or like to graduate and this is I'm speaking in an engineering
Hmm.
degree. I'm not going to speak on arts or English or teach. I can't do that. But for engineering, like to graduate you have to you take less class one semester and then you work half your class load to get a feel and to get a understanding of one, if this is actually what you want to do in the real world, and two, how the job world works.
Hmm.
So I think that it is just getting more experience however you can. So in even in high school, whether that's I know, Peter, when you brought in, Coca-Cola or Chick-fil-A, and we got
Mhm.
to work on, branded projects that I don't know if they actually meant anything, but they felt,
Mhm.
at least to us, they meant like it
Yeah.
felt like it meant something.
Hmm.
And that was an invaluable experience that I think it's been discontinued like 2 years after, but I still look for Coke Life on like
Yeah,
in
right.
the stores. I don't think it's a real thing anymore, but I
It
still look
isn't.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think anything that can revolve around gaining experience. It's difficult more in high school because like what's job experience to a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old? Like it will probably help them when they get to that college level and understand like, oh, this is, but in high school, I would say bring back more field trips.
Mm. Yeah.
Like and but like I in college, I think either junior or senior year in environmental engineering, we went to a wastewater treatment plant.
Mhm.
That was a big thing, and that it was so cool to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
how that functions to the point where in my capstone, my senior project, I created a artificial intelligence program that or like a point trigger that would pop up a 3D rendering of a wastewater treatment plant and how water gets in and what it does while it's going through the wastewater treatment plant. It was so cool, and that's a valuable experience that I probably would have if I, worked in wastewater.
Yeah.
But going like to high school, like whether that's I don't know, like let's say I know my sister, she's a high school English teacher out in New Hampshire, and so let's say she here works here in Chicago. She teaches Shakespeare. So she'll take her kids down to the Shakespeare Theater downtown and go see like that type of stuff, like to those kids are going to be invaluable.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Love that. Did you go on any field trips in high school that you remember?
Oh,
And thank you for remembering Coke Life. I totally like that. I
Love
blanked
yeah.
it.
on that. So
Oh yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
old
that was
green.
awesome.
Yeah, they had the
Yeah, it
green
was like a
green can.
foresty green.
Yeah. So,
Um, it was sativa based, all
yep.
natural sugar. I was never a Coke fan. I loved that. That was great. In high school, no, but I do. Was it? Yeah, eighth grade.
Hmm.
Yeah, eighth grade. At Percy Julian Middle School. Shout out the Jayhawks.
Hmm.
Um, and my team. I don't know if all teams did this, but my team. Um, we at the end of the year, we were paired up with a chaperone, a teacher, and we were given a scavenger hunt in Chicago.
Oh, so that's cool.
It
See?
was, and we got to decide what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's an experience.
So that was great. Yeah, no, I can't
Yeah.
really.
You would remember, like people remember trips.
Yeah,
Like they don't
yeah, I
forget,
feel like I
they
would.
don't
Yeah,
forget trips. They
Right on
don't.
there. Right on there. So, well, number one, I think it's I do want to bring back the Allie, you were doing what's a marathon course, which actually a lot of entrepreneurship courses actually run off of a marathon course. But I remember like Liam, you were like history of beer, dude. You had a history of beer
Yeah.
class. Yeah.
I was, and obviously, even beer was not able to pique my history interest. Uh, So yeah, so there was two because there was a senior year class that was like a wine and alcohol tasting class
Mhm.
that unfortunately I was not able to fit into my schedule. Which I was it was my people, my friends were like drunk when they left. It was they had a blast. Those were the business degrees. Those were the
Yeah.
business degrees. I got to do that.
Yeah. No, I love,
Um,
yeah. I wanted to ask though, kind of like, as we kind of round this out, one of the things that you said, in your pathway, there were two things, and I wanted to ask you about them. Master's degree, and you have a family, of, who your father is an entrepreneur, correct? And you were like, I would love to own my own firm. Where do you stand on that now?
master's degree only if my company is going to pay for it.
Hmm.
And I have no problem going back. Like the thought of taking a test again kind of scares me because I haven't. I mean, like I like not like a real test. Like
Right.
I take like my certification tests that are very easy, and if you pay attention, you are meant to pass.
Hmm.
Um, so I got yeah, I've perfectly okay with the idea of going back. I'm just not paying for it.
Hmm.
Um, and so funny enough, so my dad, yes, he is an entrepreneur. He owns
Hmm.
his own construction company. Um, there were talks about me taking over and learning that. Unfortunately, so it was more so every time I changed a job, the conversation with my dad and I came up, and I
Hmm.
was never ready for it.
Hmm.
And then in with my current job in the past when I was doing business development, I was just really not feeling it, and wanted to change. I didn't know what. The conversation came up again, and I finally felt ready for it. Unfortunately, after my parents talked about it more, my dad doesn't have the years left
Hmm.
to teach me how to run the company. So
Hmm.
was definitely bummed about that.
Sure.
I
But how about,
mean,
yeah, on your own? Would you
no, but
consider
like, I
that?
mean, yes, being your boss, like being your own boss is obviously the most ideal. I would love that. I feel like I have I understand when bad leadership is in front of me.
Hmm.
I'm not going to put it out there that right now
Yeah.
I'm a great leader, but I understand when
Hmm.
bad leadership is in front of me, and I know that I wouldn't do it that way.
Hmm.
So I feel like I definitely could lead and work and be a boss and have my own industry sort of speak. Do I have any plans?
Hmm.
Absolutely not. If you guys know any like tech startups or like people that are looking for just like a face of a company that could just be, I'm open. I am
I
open
love it.
for it. Um, but no, the change back to where I'm out in the field and doing actual dirty work,
Yeah.
I'm significantly happier.
Yeah.
Um, do I it this is but this I know this is not it for me. I know there's going to be more. Do I know where that is? Absolutely not. Maybe we'll check in another 7 years
7
and we'll
years,
find
man.
out. But
Yeah.
no, it's yeah, I wouldn't turn down, similar to the Masters, wouldn't turn down the opportunity, would pounce on the opportunity actually, but I'm not,
Yeah.
at the current moment, I'm not working towards doing that.
Awesome. Awesome. Final thoughts, Allie. Like, I mean, I love, thank you, man.
Definitely. So one thing, my final thought is around something you said on the first episode, and I think it still 100% holds true based on everything you said. I love that you said on the first one, you're like, I'm not going to let a letter grade define, who I am or what I am. But you said something really interesting. You're like, when I go to bed at night, like I just have to answer to myself.
Hmm.
Like I have to, I go to sleep and I'm the one that I have to answer to. And I just think like it's cool to see that's evolved in like where you are now in your mid 20s, but it's still true. Like I feel like everything you're sharing is just like you're like I'm answering to myself. Like I'm going to go to bed at night and I'm forging my way. And I think that was very wise of you back then and is something that I think our listeners, no matter what you're doing in education, like, and to your point about leadership, it's just like, can you sleep with the decision that you've made and the choices that you have? Because really that's all that matters.
Hmm.
And for young people and for those in education, I think just reflecting on that can be a really powerful thing to kind of move yourself forward. Well, and if you can't answer yourself, then maybe rethink the decision, but
Yeah.
that's a whole other
No,
thing.
I completely that so in the call that Peter and I had a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that I will watch that back every so often when I kind of need to humble myself because God, I sound so pretentious back. I was 19 years old. I didn't know anything. I still don't know anything. But Allie, I do agree with you that that was a little wisdom, you know, older than I was. And I will all say there has been plenty of restless nights where answering to myself has not been great, and it you don't always go even with that mindset. Like you
Mm.
don't go and you don't make the right decisions and you don't have peaceful, sleeps all the time, but still
We
gotta
love the
wake up
honesty
and
Yeah,
yeah.
love that. Yeah,
because that's real. Like
that is
that's what
real.
that we love that because honestly, like your 20s are not like they're for building and for exploring, and it's not like you know, everything is like figured out. But the conviction of a 19-year-old sure thinks that the 20s will be, you know?
uh, if only I could have that conviction now.
Seven
You
7 years from
can't.
now, we're gonna come right
uh,
back to this, my friend.
oh my God, I can't. I'm like, if I don't get a hair transplant, I'm just gonna be bald. Oh
Look,
my
man,
God.
mine's going up too. And don't worry about it. You'll be going to bed at 9 p.m. and loving it. So,
Oh, I can't wait.
Liam, man, I want to thank you for sharing your story. It's humbling. It really is. I mean, I think even myself looking back, even in that first conversation that we had coming back into this, and I know Ali and I have had this conversation. I was angry. I was very angry at the world. I was angry at education. I was angry. I was going to change the system. I was a little bit older than you, but I still had the 19-year-old mentality, like I'm going to do this myself. And you quickly start to realize. So taking the risks that you have, and then sharing them, this is something that we just really enjoy sharing with our audience, our educators, our administrators, our parents, and our students. So with that, if somebody was like, "Yo, here's a student that went down the engineering path, and I would love to connect with them," how would people connect with you and maybe ask you a few more questions, or maybe you could speak to a class or something like that?
Yeah, of course. First, I want to say, while you were brash and you did believe you were going to take over and you were going to disrupt education, you're on more than 400 episodes.
Yeah,
You've carved out a pretty good space in this world for your disruption. So
thank you.
kudos to you and what you two have built over the years.
Mhm.
And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm perfectly happy to talk. Just email me Liam Sundling, LiamSundling at gmail.com.
Mhm.
I I don't check that. I don't check emails the best. Work, yes, but if I don't respond in like a day or two, make sure you put something good in the
Yeah.
subject, or else I'm just glossing over that.
Love it.
Big old, big old exclamation point, fire, flames, emojis. Yeah, I got you. So, Well, Liam, thank you again so much, man. It's always a pleasure to connect and reconnect. I will tell you that you've taught me a lot, especially in the environmental area of everywhere. And I can take, I think now we get to, our listeners can hear this and give them a little bit more when they have a student or they are a student in the area of engineering and or environmental work. And you're just helping us gain light. So appreciate you for that. So I'm gonna wrap up here, Allie. Allie kind of geeked out here as a science teacher a little bit, so we'll wrap this up, but we will have another conversation after this, unpacking this conversation and more. For Allie Dahl, I am Peter Hostrasser. Thank you all so much for listening to the Disrupt Education Podcast. We'll catch you next time. That's a wrap on this episode of the Disrupt Education Podcast. Let's keep the momentum going. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode out.
If you want to dive deeper into disrupting education, visit our website at disrupteducationpodcast.com.
Here's the bottom line. We believe real change in education starts locally. It happens when communities come together to rethink learning. If you're an educator, school leader, or organization looking to take action towards real change in education, we are here to help. Reach out and connect.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. So drop us a line wherever you listen. And until next time, take that bold step beyond your comfort zone. Challenge the status quo and be the change education truly needs.
Because at the end of the day, education isn't just about subjects. It's about students. And when we dare to disrupt, the future of learning is waiting.